I'm going to share with you the Scottish books that I'm reading this winter. These are all either set in Scotland or by Scottish writers. As it gets darker and colder, there is more motivation than ever to stay inside and get cozy with a book. And so here is some inspiration for you. My name is Kat and I make slow and simple living videos in a Scottish style, so if that is of interest to you, then do be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for future content. They say save the best till last, but I'm going in with the book I'm most looking forward to reading this winter, and that is A Toast to the Old Stones, A Tale from Kinloch by Denzel Merrick. It is set in the wee village of Kinloch, where the fishermen of the area are readying themselves to gather for the pilgrimage to the Old Stones, which is where they celebrate the Old New Year. It seems to be somewhere between an adventure, but also melded in with a bit of legend. But the thing that really made me pick it up was not the blurb, it was actually the first page, just like the prologue, that just so resonated with me with what I've known and experienced in Scotland. So I'm just going to read it to you and then we'll move on to the next book. There are places all over the world that elicit strange feelings of ancient things on the edge of consciousness. Lofty cathedrals, holy spaces, and sacred isles possess an ambience of mystery and otherness which pervades the very air. This next book is very firmly in the realm of fantasy, and that is Lilith by George MacDonald. I read Fantasties by George MacDonald in the autumn time, and it was very weird and wonderful, but really had such a depth in it that I don't come across very regularly. There's something about the story of someone going to another world that we're able to be opened up to this idea of another spiritual realm and connecting with that sense that we're not just matter, that we do have spirits and there is something bigger than just us on this planet. And so I think this is something that MacDonald does really well. His books were actually the inspiration for C.S. Lewis's Narnia Chronicles, and so I'm hopeful that this is going to have the same depth and magic that the last one did. Next is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Of course, I could have chosen any of the Harry Potter books, as Hogwarts, the school for witchcraft and wizardry, is set in Scotland, in the Scottish Highlands, and the books were largely written in Edinburgh. However, I chose this one because there is a very beautiful scene in the middle of it where there is a Yule ball, this beautiful wintry ball, and I also have reread the first 3 books multiple times and then haven't always broken through to rereading the others, so it really makes sense to me to jump into the middle of the series in this case. The next one, I don't really know if it's a wintry book, so to speak, but the cover looks very wintry to me, and that is The Ghost Tree by Barbara Erskine. And so this is about a woman who is doing a clear out in her family home, I believe, and discovers the old diary of an ancestor of hers from years and years back, and out of that unfolds this ghost story. So I think this is going to be kind of like a ghost story historical adventure. I think it's going to be quite Victorian, and I really love Victorian novels, so I think I'm going to enjoy it. Next is Bird Summons by Leila Abolila, and this is about 3 Scottish Muslim women who go on a pilgrimage through Scotland. These 3 women are quite different and they didn't really know each other very well before the trip, but united by this desire for spiritual growth. They end up taken on this journey by this mystical hoopoe bird. Though I'm a Christian, I was raised in a Muslim country, and so it's really nice to see a kind of fusion of the different cultures. This is very much a tartan noir book, Peter May, A Winter Grave, which is about someone who ends up lost out on the mountains, and I think he freezes to death. Yeah, cheerful, huh? Yes, so someone's out in the mountains and then they find the body of a man entombed in ice, and it turns out that it's a missing person from several months before, a journalist in fact, which makes you wonder, what was he hiding, and was this an intentional disaster? I've never read any Peter May. I've not really read a lot of Tarte Noir, which is a kind of darker crime genre that is quite popular in Scotland, and so I'm looking forward to trying something a bit new and different. The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. So Lucy Foley has actually recently had a new book out, which is why I thought to read her, but I've gone back to an older book. So it's basically about a group of old friends who every year have a reunion at New Year's. On this occasion, they have decided to go to a remote lodge/cabin in the Scottish Highlands, but it soon becomes apparent that they don't have as much in common with each other as it originally seemed. One of them disappears one night and is found dead the next morning, and then a snowstorm comes and there is no way in or out, so they are effectively trapped in the Scottish wilderness in the middle of nowhere, and they don't know who the killer is. I've actually already read this. I did really enjoy it. It was done in quite a different way. You actually don't know who is murdered or who the murderer is until quite near the end. I'll say that much, but I don't want to spoil it. Just to say that I think it was an old premise written in an original way. Next one, I actually picked this up thinking it was a romance, but turns out it's a mystery novel. A View to a Kilt by Wendy Holden. I'm going to be honest, I think this is going to be very cliche. It's about an English journalist who travels up to Scotland to get this scoop because apparently Scotland is having a fashion moment. Then there is a whole load of intrigue that comes out. I'm not sure to do with what, it's not clear from the blurb or anything else. I think it will probably just be a light read with a little bit of mystery, maybe a bit of cosy crime. So far it seems to be quite pinned on very intense Scottish stereotypes, which I don't always like that when it goes too far. So we'll see. I'm going to keep an open mind with it. So the two romances that I'm going to read are super Christmassy. So the first, which I'm already halfway through, is The Christmas Secret by Karen Swan, and it is about a management consultant who is like one of the top dogs in turning businesses around, and she's very much a jet setter but ends up getting booked to go to this remote Scottish island, Islay, and so she goes there where there's a whiskey company that's in a lot of trouble because the CEO is causing a lot of problems for everybody else. Of course, when she arrives there, it turns out that she is a wee bit more out of her depth than she had previously thought that she would be. The CEO in question is very, very resistant to receiving her help. Of course, he happens to be quite dark and broody and handsome, so I will see where it goes, but I think I can guess. There's also a bit of history woven in as well. It jumps back and forth between present day and several generations past as well. So you get a lot of historical ideas of potentially what life might have been like there many years in the past. Next one is Christmas at the Island Hotel by Jenny Colgan. It is about a brother and sister who open a hotel on an island, but it ends up being a lot more work than they thought it would be, but they need to get everything ready in time for Christmas. It is a romance, I believe, but I don't know what kind of romance or anything else beyond that. I just think it'll be a very cosy read to curl up with in an evening.
Oh, holy night, the stars.
You may notice a slight change in background. The Christmas tree is a wee bit further back and the light is a little bit better. I did decide to refilm this last section just because it got way too dark really quickly and I didn't see it coming, so here we are. There are 2 Scottish Advent devotionals that I'm looking into this year. One is an Advent on gratitude by my dear friend Patience, and you can get that on Amazon. And the other one is on Celtic Christianity and how the early saints in Scotland and Ireland viewed Advent and the lead up to Christmas. So I'm hoping to get some wisdom from those 2 and for it to be an opportunity for me to slow down my spirit in the lead up to Christmas as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, do be sure to like it and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments what books you're reading this winter. But until next time, it was lovely to have you here.